Welcome to today's Explainer. We are about to go on an epic, cinematic journey through one of the absolute most complex and fascinating systems in the entire human body. I want you to just imagine for a second taking a bite of a delicious burger. From the exact millisecond it enters your mouth, that bite transforms into a highly coordinated scientific expedition. We're going to zoom in, all the way down to the microscopic cell level, to see exactly how your body extracts the vital energy it needs to keep you alive. So let's dive right into it.
Here's a quick roadmap for our expedition today. We're going to cover the journey begins, the esophageal plunge, the stomach's acid bath, accessory organs to the rescue, the small intestine matrix, and finally, the microbiome and beyond. All right, Section 1, the journey begins. You know, the magic of digestion actually kicks off the moment food enters your mouth. There are 6 basic steps to this whole process. Basically, the primary goal here is to take large, complex nutrients, what we call polymers, and systematically break them down into their absolute smallest units, or monomers. This happens through ingestion, then moving the food through propulsion, physically crushing it via mechanical digestion, breaking its bonds with chemical digestion, absorbing those nutrients into the bloodstream, and finally getting rid of the waste through defecation.
The sheer scale of this operation is just brilliant. The human gastrointestinal tract, or GI tract for short, is essentially one continuous, twisting, muscular tube that extends from your mouth all the way down to the anus. Think of it like an epic assembly line. If you were to stretch it all out, you'd realize just how much incredible biological machinery is packed right inside your abdomen.
So, how exactly do we break food down? Well, we use a 2-pronged attack. First is mechanical digestion, which is just the physical crushing of food. Think of your teeth slicing through that burger, or your stomach aggressively churning it up later on. Chemical digestion, on the other hand, is microscopic. It's the enzymatic breakdown of chemical bonds. The second food hits your mouth, your salivary glands release an enzyme called salivary amylase, which instantly goes to work hydrolyzing complex starches into simpler sugars like maltose. Moving on to Section 2, the esophageal plunge. Once your teeth and saliva have turned that food into a small, wet mass, which we call a bolus, notice what happens right as you swallow. A small, crucial flap of tissue, called the epiglottis, folds horizontally right over your windpipe. It's a brilliant little mechanism that prevents you from choking, safely directing that bolus of food away from your lungs and strictly into the esophagus. And once it's in the esophagus, it doesn't just fall down into your stomach because of gravity. Nope. The downward journey is powered by peristalsis. These are rhythmic, powerful, wave-like muscle contractions. The circular muscles behind the food squeeze really tightly, while the muscles in front relax, which aggressively pushes that bolus downward toward a gateway called the lower esophageal sphincter. That brings us to Section 3, the stomach's acid bath. As that lower esophageal sphincter relaxes, our bolus drops into a totally hostile, churning muscular sac. Operating kind of like a high-intensity chemical plant, the stomach has internal wrinkles called rugae that allow it to massively expand. But the real magic is happening in the gastric glands. Parietal cells start pumping out powerful hydrochloric acid. At the same time, chief cells secrete an inactive enzyme called pepsinogen. Now, why isn't it inactive? Well, because if it were active right away, it would literally digest the stomach itself. But when pepsinogen meets that intense acid, it activates into pepsid, which vigorously slices through proteins. I mean, just look at this number for a second. A pH of 0.8 to 2, that is incredibly acidic. This intense environment serves 3 amazing purposes. It kills incoming pathogenic bacteria, it denatures or unravels complex proteins, and it activates that pepsin enzyme we just talked about. Now, you're probably wondering why the stomach doesn't just digest itself, right? It's saved by a 1 to 3 millimeter thick layer of alkaline mucus that constantly shields the stomach lining from its own deadly acid. By the time the stomach is done churning, our food has been transformed into a thick, semi-liquid paste called chyme.
Section 4, accessory organs to the rescue. So as that highly acidic chyme squirts through the pyloric sphincter and into the duodenum, which is the very first part of the small intestine, it needs immediate help. You can think of the liver, gallbladder, and pancreas as an elite rapid response team. The liver is the body's largest gland, and it produces this green fluid called bile. The gallbladder stores and concentrates that bile, squeezing it out whenever fat is detected. And the pancreas? Well, it's an absolute powerhouse. It secretes a pancreatic juice packed with digestive enzymes, along with crucial bicarbonate ions that act as a buffer to instantly neutralize that burning stomach acid. Let's break down our chemical arsenal here. You can clearly see the specific enzymes deployed to slice through your macromolecules. Amylase takes down the carbs. Pepsin, and later pancreatic trypsin, absolutely demolish the proteins. But lipids, or fats, those are tricky because they don't mix with water. That's exactly where the liver's bile salts come in. They emulsify large fat globules, essentially breaking them down into tiny microscopic droplets so pancreatic lipase can finally digest them.
Section 5, the small intestine matrix. This is it. This is where the grand finale of nutrient absorption happens. And yes, you read that right, 20 feet. Your small intestine, which is divided into the duodenum, jejunum, and ileum, is an incredibly long, coiled tube packed super efficiently right into your abdominal cavity. It is the absolute primary site for chemical digestion and nutrient absorption. But its length isn't its only trick for grabbing nutrients. If we zoom in cinematically to a microscopic level, we see something truly breathtaking. The inner lining of the intestine isn't smooth at all. It's actually covered in millions of these tiny, finger-like projections called villi, which themselves are covered in even smaller microvilli. This brilliantly increases the surface area by several hundred times. This is where glowing glucose and amino acid molecules are absorbed directly into the blood capillaries, while digested fats are transported into specialized lymphatic vessels called lacteals.
And finally, Section 6, the microbiome and beyond.
Okay, so we've extracted the nutrients, but the journey isn't quite over. We now guide the remaining water and fibers into the large intestine. And the numbers here are just staggering. Between 300 and 500 distinct bacterial species live in your gut. In fact, gut bacteria actually outnumber human cells by 10 to 1. Scientists often refer to the microbiome as the forgotten organ because it harbors roughly 2 million genes and drastically influences our metabolic function, our immune response, and honestly, even our emotional state.
Meet some of your microscopic allies, like Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus. These friendly bacteria are hard at work for you. They take the dietary fibers that our human enzymes couldn't digest, and they ferment them. This fermentation process produces vital volatile fatty acids that literally give energy to our colon cells. They reduce inflammation, and they even synthesize essential vitamins like vitamin K. But the crucial takeaway here is that this ecosystem is delicate. When this bacterial balance is disrupted, a state we call dysbiosis, it has some pretty severe consequences. An unhealthy microbiome is heavily linked to metabolic dysfunctions, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and inflammatory bowel diseases like Crohn's. So what we feed our bacteria really matters. To summarize the large intestine's final job, it acts as a massive reclaimer. As it houses those billions of beneficial bacteria, it systematically absorbs the remaining water and electrolytes, drying out the unabsorbed waste and compacting it into solid feces, getting it ready for its final exit via the rectum and anus. Let's do a rapid-fire review of our incredible timeline. We started in the mouth with chewing and enzymes. We were pushed down the esophagus by the powerful muscle waves of peristalsis. We survived the acidic breakdown of the stomach. We absorbed life-giving nutrients through the vast microscopic matrix of the small intestine. And finally, we fed our vital microbiome in the large intestine before eliminating the waste. Every single bite you eat begins an amazing journey that keeps your body alive. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. Knowing how hard your 300 to 500 species of gut bacteria work to protect you, extract energy, and balance your immune system, how will your next meal impact your microbiome and your overall health? Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible expedition through the explainer today. Keep learning, keep eating well, and I will see you next time.